this is the Summoner's build. Very happy with the way that it's been displaying in Battlegrounds. Haven't taken it out to open world yet. I mean, being what it is, it might be a little difficult to do. Not saying that you couldn't, but I don't want to make a super long build video. Just want to do short and sweet since this is the end of Update 41 for the consoles, and we are moving on to Update 42 with scribing. So this is just kind of something that I've been playing around with just to have a little fun before the next update. So here we go into our character sheet, unbuffed stats. Pretty high max magic, and then just a little bit higher max health. You can play with whatever you feel is more comfortable, having everything into magic, or putting some into health too. And actually, I'm going to get rid of my camera just so that we can better see the, since I'm on console, everything's shifted to the left. There we go. Everything's looking really good unbuffed wise. Penetration is very juicy. We are not using Major Breach. We are using Minor Breach via the Sundered status effect, but that's not saying that you couldn't use Major Breach, but you could, and it would obviously give you a lot more pen. Looking at our back bar, unbuffed, a little squishy, 1713, and then crit resist 1800. But fully buffed up. Our resistances are 26 and 22 respectively before our resistance flesh, which can put us into the 30s very easily with how high our healing is. And then of course our front bar, we're looking at 3924 with 12k pen before Battle Orgs, before Rallying Cry, and before Sea Serpent's Coil. So with this build we can see just under 6k spell damage. I know it's a short window, but the Rallying Cry and Sea Serpent's Coil will be plenty while our Battle Orgs is on cooldown. Jumping into our skills, this is a summoner's build, so why not have everything that's worth summoning on the front bar? With this being said, the rotation is super simple. You have your summoner's armor, which reduces the cost of all your summons by 15%, then your Skelly Art, then your Spirit Guardian, then your Bladed Blast Bones. The rotation is armor, Skelly Art, Ghost, and then you can summon your Blast Bones in and out while weaving your Crushing Shock. It's super simple. Your buffs are always up. It's a lot easier to manage like this instead of having to jump to your back bar to resummon your armor buffs and your Spirit Mender, because it is only 16 seconds. And then while you're fighting, you can kind of just stay on your front bar and redo this because you're getting the healing from the Ghost and you're remaining tanky with your armor buff up. And then if you have to switch to your back bar for some longer duration buffs and some more healing, then you can. Jumping into the back bar, Deadened Pain, Resistant Flesh, Racing Against Time, Resolving Vigor, Mortal Coil, and Life Giver. In Battlegrounds, Mortal Coil can be swapped out for Hexproof. I have noticed that it helps a lot, just being in no CP and not having all of the extra buff management slash damage mitigation with the amount of negative effects on you. Having a cleanse in Battlegrounds goes a long way, but you can swap out whatever you feel more comfortable with. Mortal Coil also works just as well because of the healing that we have, and I will explain why we have so much healing here in a minute. Life Giver, I like this because it's basically a cheap ultimate that's casting 3 different skills depending on which morph you have too, and it's giving you a crap ton of healing right up front. So aside from the almost 9k heal every 1 second for 5 seconds, it's going to give you regeneration, blessing of protection, and steadfast ward at no cost. Whatever morph that you choose in your healing tree, that's the effects that it will take. So I have rapid regen, combat prayer, and healing word. I feel like that's the best setup in my opinion for PvP, especially because it's going to give you minor berserk and minor resolve, which you already get from your vigor. But let's just say your vigor is not on at that time that you pop this, then you still have this while getting the healing from vigor as well. For those that don't really understand Necromancer, it's basically the weakest class in PvP, but I won't dive into my complaints about it. I just will briefly explain the skills. Summoner's Armor is your armor buff. This is going to give you your major resolve, and then it's going to reduce the cost of all of your minions. Skelly Arc, I chose the stamina version of this because of our passive in the reusable parts. Anytime one of these is down, the next cost is going to be 50%. So the ones that we spam a lot are going to be stamina, and since they already cost low resources, it's going to cost even less with the reusable parts passive. Blighted Blast Bones being 918. I mean, come on, can't get better than that. And then Skelly Arc 1263. So with all of these constantly being casted, you're pretty much always going to have a 50% reduced cost with them. Like Spirit Guardian's so expensive, and it's only costing me 2k magic, so it alleviates dipping into just purely magic for all of my skills. It's a little bit of a, I wouldn't even call it a hybrid. This is still just a Macro, but utilizing all of its potential to its fullest. The Ghost, this is going to reduce your damage done or damage taken by 10% because it's going to go to the Ghost. A little bit of a hot, it's not that much to brag about, and it only lasts 16 seconds, but the damage transfer to the spirits really helps out with staying alive. Crushing Shock for all those annoying sorks that streak away in Dark Deal. I like this a lot for this particular setup because we don't have that much AoE damage aside from our ultimate and our Blighted Blast Bones. Otherwise, I would use Force Pulse. But this fits better just because of, you know, Templars that will try to beam you constantly and they're spamming it, or Sorcerers, if you can catch them off guard with their Dark Deal or Dark Conversion, you can interrupt them and stun them since we lack a stun. And that happens to be a highly populated era at the moment is Sorks. Blighted Blast Bones, this is our bread and butter burst. Doing a bunch of disease damage and reducing the target's healing and damage shield strength by 12%. This also does Minor Defile, which is an additional 60% because Minor Defile will proc off of the diseased status effect. Pestilent Colossus, another minion, basically giving us major vulnerability. All of our direct damage is going to be increased by 10%, and then it's going to do 3 smashes, which do hurt, and it only costs 189, and it will be buffed by our first set that we are using. I'm sure you could guess it, the Unleashed Ritualist set. So Unleashed Ritualist is going to give us a bunch of max magic, which is really nice for our setup. And then dealing damage with an enemy applies Ritualist Mark to them for 10 seconds. Enemies with Ritualist Mark take an additional 16% damage from your summoned pets. 16%. That is a lot. I have seen a few comments on the past stream that I did saying that, you know, why not use Essence Thief? Essence Thief gives you 10% overall and yada yada yada. Well, basically, this is giving us 16% for all of our abilities, minus a few. So Pestilent Colossus is going to get boosted by this. Blighted Blast Bones, which is basically our secondary spammable, is going to get boosted by this. Skeletal Archer is going to get boosted by this. And then on top of that, it's going to do 15% more damage per attack. So every 2 seconds, it's just going to deal an increased 15%. Not to mention, our Lightning Staff gives us an additional 10% to our AoE direct damage abilities. And then if you really wanted to buff that or utilize that more, you could swap out the monster mask that we currently have, which is Battle Orcs, for a different monster set that has a summon to it. So Shadowrend, Baron's Thirsk, I'm sure there's another one that I'm not thinking of, but whatever monster set that you want, you basically can just add that to your minions, and then it will do an increased 16% as well with the Ritualist Mark on them. I don't know for sure. I've been told that Kajolner's, the fist that comes out of the ground, is buffed by Ritualist. I'm on console, so I cannot confirm or deny if that is the truth. If it is, then that's pretty sweet. It might actually be worth running this, but as of right now, Balorg for the extra penetration and weapon and spell damage is nice to have because we are not using Major Breach due to running a bunch of pets on the front bar. Now, some people might get discouraged by not running Major Breach, but the damage is there, the penetration is there. We can get to like 26k pen with a full Balorgs. And then even with a 189 alt cost on our ultimates, we are still seeing like a 14 to 16 penetration before Major Breach. So you don't need to overpen, but definitely keep that in mind that you're going to have plenty of damage without it, the Major Breach. So you saw our first set, Ritualist, second set, Rallying Cry. This is an older set. It's heavily used in PvP. I like it a lot. It definitely does what I want it to do, particularly in battleground, since there seems to be a lack of teamwork most of the time unless you have good players that know what they're doing. But while battle spirit is active, critically healing yourself or an ally causes you and 11 other group members within 12 meters to gain 289 weapon and spell damage and 1592 crit resistance for 20 seconds. Each group member affected reduces the weapon and spell damage by 14 and the critical resistance by 80. This really isn't that huge of a deal because in Battlegrounds there's only 4 of us. So whatever that math is, I'm not going to try and sit here and do it since I'm making a quick video. It really doesn't hurt us that much to run this in Battlegrounds because it is benefiting us having the critical resistance on there. You want more candy? Okay, you can have 2 more.
Oh, 2?
2. Yeah. You're welcome. So we benefit a lot from having this just because, we do find ourselves to be outnumbered a lot, and having that extra critical resistance will go a long way because with this build we are running 1 heavy, 1 medium, and 5 light. I know it's very scary to think about 5 light armor pieces in PvP, but hear me out. We have a lot of critical resistance. We have a lot of damage mitigation with this build. One of those ways is 40% damage mitigation with Sea Serpent's Coil. Another way is Necro passives ultimately just being the way that they are. We're going to have a lot of healing, a lot of reduced damage from damage over time effects. We're going to have good sustain with Death Gleaning. And then Vampire Stage 3 on top of it. You have Dead in Pain. You have all of these hots that are going off. This is cheap to use. We're going to be fast because we have Race Against Time with 2 Swift pieces. So I have Bloodthirsty on the one ring and then 2 Swift on the other, so that we have 3% at least up at all times. And of course, it's going to work out to our advantage because we have all of these minions that can help us out, take care of crowd control, do some awesome damage, and then at the same time, if we really need to get away, we can with just a quick burst, heal up, and then call it a day. See, that's Balorg's, I think was 289. We're already at 17k pen, so you really don't have to worry about the Major Breach. It does plenty. We are a high elf. I don't know if I mentioned that. I switched from Imperial to high elf for the extra spell damage, the max magic. Overall, I enjoy high elf a lot, particularly for magic users. Imperial is nice for the reduced cost, but because we have such a low costing skill bar because of our passives, it doesn't really matter that much. Mag recovery can go up to about 1600 with a pot and with our mender up, 1652, and then stamina recovery is still at 1100, even with 2 of our summons being stamina cost. So it works out a lot. I have no problem sustaining. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think. Jewels of Mizrals are food. You could use a buy-stat food if you wanted to. The other one that I'm running is, depending on what I'm feeling, is Witch Mothers. Witch Mothers is awesome because of our stamina not really having to dip into that other than breaking free and dodge rolling. This will also boost our mag recovery and give us a little bit more max magic, thus overall increasing our damage done. So keep that in mind. Play how you like. And then remember that you are in light armor, so you do have the recovery there as well. I forget what the actual tooltip is. Oh, that's penetration. So we got 4695 pen just from wearing light armor. So that's crazy right there. Weapon and spell critical. Increase spell resistance by 30. That's pretty good. And then, so we have 20% mag recovery bonus for all of our light armor. And reducing the cost of our magic abilities by 10% because of all of our light armor. So light armor actually is pretty slept on. I know it's a little discouraging to wear it because you could be one shot, but it works on a necromancer because we are so tanky, and it allows us to wear it while being offensive. So I'll give you the quick rotation here. Buff up, and then join in the combat. Got the ritualist mark on him. That's that little orange dot above the player's head. So what you want to do is basically rotate 1 blast bones per 3 crushing shock, and you do about, at least on this dummy, I think 20 or 21k. So this one's 19. But the sustain is there, the burst is there. Oh, that's because we don't have Rallying Cry or Sea Serpent's Coil, so keep that in mind too. I wish I could show you exactly what the fully buffed stats are, but since we're in my guild house, I can't proc either of them because we don't have Battle Spirit. Champion points, if you did want to take this into open world. I haven't tried it yet, but it's not saying that you couldn't do it. We're running Master at Arms, Riposte, Last Stand, Cutting Defense. I like these because it's not something that Necro really has to worry about as far as like damage mitigation or extra damage, because our pets are getting that 16% bonus. We're going to be hitting hard to begin with, so all I have is Master at Arms for just a little bit more direct damage, but if you read these, it's going to help out with our sustain in open world. When you block 7 meters, your next direct damage within 5 seconds is going to do 33%. If you can time that with your ultimate, I mean, come on, 33%, 16%, this effect incur every 5 seconds. It's up quite a bit. And then if you block with a resto staff, you're also going to get a lot of magic back too, so keep that in mind. When you take damage below 20% health, you get major heroism every 1.5 seconds. 9 seconds turns into, it can happen every 9 seconds. So you're getting 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 9 seconds. And basically 100% uptime since the cooldown is 9 seconds. So remember, Necro, Vamp Stage 3, Dead in Pain. You're going to be under 20% health quite a bit, but you're going to be really tanky. You're going to gain ultimate like crazy, and then you can resto heal, or you can turn around and burn them and do a huge burst. Cutting Defense, dealing 330 magic damage to attackers whenever they damage you with direct damage in 7 meters. This effect scales off the higher of your physical spell resistance. So, why is this important for a Necromancer? Because we are 26k spell resistance, I think 23 or 22k physical, but when we pop our resistance flesh, we are going to get the same equal amount of resistances equal to half the heal, I believe. Am I just talking out my ass? I don't remember exactly. Yeah, physical and spell resistance equal to half the amount healed for 3 seconds. So in PvP, 10.7k heal, you're going to be doing a 5.35 resistances for 3 seconds. I think I did that right. Yeah, whatever. 5k resistances. So that's also going to go up the lower your health is. So you do a 15k heal, you get 7.5k resistances. So anytime that you why are my fingers not working? Anytime that you get this to go off, the higher your resistance is, the more damage you're going to do to them. So it's a little fun, different setup than most people run, but like I said, it's worked for me in Imperial City. I guess you can consider that open world, but I haven't taken this build out into Cyrodiil quite yet, mostly because of time. And then Celerity, because we're running Sea Serpent's Coil, Bastion for those pesky Sorks and Arcanists, Pain's Refuge for extra damage mitigation, and then sustain by suffering just to boost our recoveries a little bit, since, you know, it's not the greatest, but 1600 magic and 1100 stam recovery, that's where we sit, and this will just give us a little bit more. Green tree, whatever you want, it's nothing crazy. Gifted rider, Steed's blessing, liquid efficiency, rationer. Okay, so with that being said, guys, that is the summoners build. I don't want to make a crazy long video. We are already approaching 20 minutes, so let me know what you think. I will post some clips later on down the road. Maybe I'll do another stream, a late night stream. I will be uploading, or I will be streaming on multi-platform setup soon, so I will be doing both Twitch and YouTube once I get my subscription together. Looking to start that within the early next week, if not the end of this week. But this is also the guild house. Welcome to the graveyard. If those of you want to join the guild, we are taking applicants. We just started. Everything in here is what I did in about a couple of days worth. A lot of fun. So if you want to come check out this house and check out the graveyard, hang out with me, duel with guildies, do some PvP and battlegrounds, hit me up. Until then, peace out. Stay frosty. Welcome to the graveyard.